Hades, the Greek underworld, wasn't fiery. It was cold, gray, and endless. To even get inside, souls had to bribe Charon, the creepy ferryman, with a coin for the river Styx. Guarding the gates was Cerberus, a giant three-headed dog who made sure no one escaped. Once inside, everyone became pale shadows, wandering in silence forever. No riches, no titles. Death in Hades was the great equalizer. The underworld had regions too. Elysium for heroes, the asphodel fields for ordinary souls, and dark caves for the cursed. The Greeks buried their dead with coins, food, and even small weapons to help them on the journey. To them, Hades wasn't evil. It was order, a system no one could avoid. Now, deeper than Hades was Tartarus, and this place was pure nightmare fuel. The Titans who lost to Zeus were chained here, left in eternal darkness. Sinners faced punishments that sound like horror stories. Sisyphus rolling his boulder forever, Tantalus starving with food just out of reach. It was said if you dropped something, it would take 9 days to even hit the bottom. Tartarus wasn't just death. It was cosmic justice, cruel and endless. Fire, chains, and iron walls filled this abyss. Giants and monsters like Typhon were said to be locked here too, waiting for revenge. In some myths, Tartarus was guarded by bronze gates, impossible for mortals or even gods to break. For the Vikings, not everyone got to feast in Valhalla. Those who died of sickness or old age went to Helheim. Imagine a world of freezing fog, silent shadows, and a gate locked tight by the goddess Hel herself. Half woman, half rotting corpse. Here, souls wandered in gloom, forgotten forever. It wasn't torture, it was worse. A cold afterlife with no honor, no songs, no glory. At the gates howled Garm, the monstrous hound, who would only be defeated during Ragnarok. The halls of Helheim were said to be damp, icy, and filled with hunger. For a Viking, ending up here was the ultimate failure. It meant no saga would ever sing your name. But for the lucky warriors who died in battle, welcome to Valhalla. Picture a golden hall so huge its roof is made of shields. Everyday warriors fight each other, dying in glorious battle, then rise at night to feast on endless meat and rivers of mead. This wasn't heaven of peace. This was heaven of warriors, eternal training camp for Ragnarok, the final battle of gods. Odin himself chose who entered Valhalla, sending Valkyries to carry the bravest warriors from the battlefield. The boar Sehrimnir was cooked every night and reborn by morning, feeding everyone again. In the end, these warriors weren't partying forever. They were training, waiting to fight side by side with Odin when the world burned. The Egyptian afterlife wasn't easy. You had to survive the Duat. Imagine sailing through rivers of fire, crossing 12 gates guarded by monsters, even fighting off giant snakes. And at the very end came the scariest trial. Your heart weighed on a scale against a feather. Too heavy? A beast named Amit, part crocodile, part lion, part hippo, ate you alive. Too light? Welcome to paradise forever. Pharaohs were buried with the Book of the Dead, a guide full of spells and maps to survive the journey. Gods like Ra and Anubis escorted souls through the trials. For the Egyptians, the afterlife wasn't guaranteed. You had to prove your heart was pure. The Aztecs pictured Mictlan, an underworld that took 4 years to cross. Souls battled through 9 terrifying levels. Rivers of blood, freezing winds, and mountains smashing together like giant jaws. Only one thing could help you, a loyal spirit dog guiding the way. And at the end sat Mictlan, a skeleton god of death waiting in the shadows. This wasn't reward or punishment. It was a test of endurance beyond life. Families often buried the dead with small dogs so they'd have a guide. Skulls, bones, and owls were symbols of Mictlan, who ruled from a throne of bones. It wasn't about good or bad. It was about proving strength even after death. The Maya told stories of Xibalba, literally called the place of fear. It was run by the lords of death, who loved toying with humans. Souls were thrown into deadly houses, one of complete darkness, one full of hungry jaguars, and one filled with blades cutting from every direction. Only the clever and the brave could escape their tricks. Xibalba was less about torture, more about humiliation and fear. The Popol Vuh, the Maya holy book, tells how the hero twins actually outsmarted the lords of Xibalba in deadly ballgames. To the Maya, courage and intelligence could beat even death itself. Xibalba wasn't hopeless, it was a challenge. In Japan, death led to Yomi, a land of shadows and rot. Once you ate the food of Yomi, you were trapped forever. The god Izanagi once tried to rescue his wife, Izanami, but when he saw her decayed and crawling with maggots, he fled in horror. Furious, Izanami chased him, but he sealed Yomi with a giant boulder. For the Japanese, Yomi was the reminder. Death is final, and there's no return. Unlike other underworlds, Yomi wasn't punishment. It was just eternal filth and gloom. Ancient texts describe it as a place with foul smells, corpses, and shadows clinging forever. The story of Izanagi and Izanami shows how love, even between gods, couldn't defeat death. In Hindu and Buddhist traditions, Naraka was a place of brutal punishment. Some souls burned in fiery pits, others froze in endless ice, and some lived with hunger and thirst that never ended. But here's the twist. It wasn't forever. Once a soul had paid for its sins, it was reborn into a new life. Naraka wasn't eternal hell. It was cosmic correction, a reset button for karma. Texts describe multiple Narakas, each with punishments for specific sins. Some sinners were pierced by thorns, others boiled in cauldrons of oil. But unlike eternal damnation, Naraka was temporary, justice served, lesson learned, and then rebirth. One of the oldest underworlds came from Mesopotamia, Kur. Ruled by the goddess Ereshkigal, it was a place of endless dust and shadow. The dead ate dirt, drank muddy water, and wandered in silence for all eternity. No rewards, no punishments, just dull, endless nothing. Kur shows us humanity's earliest fear, not fire, not torture, but the emptiness of being forgotten. Even great heroes like Gilgamesh couldn't escape Kur. It swallowed kings and peasants alike. The entrance was guarded by 7 gates, each with its own keeper. For the Sumerians, the worst fate wasn't pain. It was living in darkness without memory or legacy. Which of these underworlds do you think is the scariest? Drop your answer in the comments before we dive in. Next is Lua-o-milu. In Hawaiian belief, Lua-o-milu was the land where souls went after death. It lay beneath the earth, with trees whose branches were said to catch wandering spirits. The souls here could interact with the living, often appearing as ghosts at night. Lua-o-milu wasn't entirely terrifying. It was more of a shadow world, reflecting the Hawaiian view of life and death as connected. Spirits could move between realms, lingering near their families or watching from the cliffs where the living left offerings. Ancient Hawaiian chants and rock carvings describe this underworld, keeping its stories alive today. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed this journey with Snapmentry, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. I'll be bringing you more fascinating stories and myths in the next video.